and good evening. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, John. It's very nice to have you with us. Always very excited to have John with us. For those who don't know, he plays in the Tony and Rudy games with us. We are the boys from the Baltic Star, and we do narrative gaming. And usually on Fridays and Saturdays, that means tabletop role playing games. And tonight, in a change from our most common Friday evening traveller game, we are playing Clarissa the Vampire Slayer. Now, this is a game based on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer rules, the RPG associated with the TV show. But this one's set in ancient Rome, as will hopefully become clear as we begin to play. Tonight, we have with us, playing Gaius, Ewan. How are you, Ewan?
I'm very well, thanks, Luke. I'm very well. Ben? Luke? That was a reflex there. Wow. Sorry, Ben.
I won't tell if you won't. Wowzers.
Yeah, no one tell Luke. But yeah, I'm very well, thanks. Apologies.
Whew. Yes. So, are you calming down now?
A little bit. Yeah.
And playing our Slayer, Clarissa, we have Sock Fiddler. How are you, Socks?
I'm good. I'm good. And I was busy swooning because John's here tonight, and it's not that I love anybody else less than John. It's just that John makes me swoon more than anybody else.
I don't think you're alone in that, yeah, actually.
Yeah. But also Lee and the rest of the gang. Hello. Hi, Lee. Yeah, it's a very swoony night. I'm like hot flushing all over the place. Goodness.
Well, it's lovely to have you with us. And you are playing you are playing our Slayer this evening. So basically, win or lose, live or die, it's all down to you.
Thanks. I'm getting pretty good at running away and teasing Gaius. I mean, those are notable skills.
They're essential skills, actually. Yes, absolutely essential. So,
especially for friends of a Slayer.
So these set of rules, these have been around for a while. They, I suspect, are long out of print now. They were RPG rules that came out during the run of the TV show, and they have a style all their own, which I rather like and think is good fun. They do have one crushing disadvantage, of course. They roll using D10s, which is the devil's own die and is intrinsically evil. But other than that, I suppose it's appropriate for vampires, to be honest.
It's the Hellmouth dice. Come on.
It is an unpleasant thing. The only die in the bag that's actually a. Thank you, Socks.
You're welcome.
Best spot ever.
The only die in the bag that isn't actually a regular polyhedron. It really irritates me.
Is that why you don't like them?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
All of the others are perfectly regular polyhedrons, and that one isn't. It annoys me. Oh, is Seventh Seal 10s as well, Ghost? Evening Ghost.
Oh, it is loads of them.
Oh, God. You see, the world, it's just set out to try me, I think. I need to produce an enormously brilliant game system that is so universal that everybody will use it, and it completely ignores all D10s. That's what has to happen. So, anyway, tonight we are playing Clarissa the Vampire Slayer, and the story is set in Rome. So, without further ado, let's get on with the actual adventure. Once more, we find ourselves in Rome, in the year 71 BCE. Crassus, Rome's most powerful citizen, has, for the first time anyone can remember, been forced to leave the city in February, Rome's most important month, and when the Lupercalia festival is, which celebrates the founding of the city and the legend of Romulus. Titus Julius runs the city's least successful and least prominent ludus, a school for gladiators. He and his son Gaius aren't concerned by their lack of success, because that's not what their ludus is for. Secretly, Julius is a mentor, a role that will, much later, become known as a watcher. He found a young Brythonic slave called Clarissa, and purchased her, knowing she was in fact her generation's slayer. The entire ludus is actually for training her and her allies to fight the evil fiends that lurk in the shadows. This February, there's an extraordinary amount of activity, and Gaius and Clarissa have been patrolling every night. One evening they encountered an attempted kidnapping of a slave from a street near the Circus Maximus. The kidnappers had an unusual amulet which seemed to have the power to stifle all sound around it. They killed the kidnappers and then allowed their horses to find their way home, to discover they came from a stable yard attached to the side of the house of Crassus on the Palatine Hill. They sneaked inside a cellar attached to the stable, finding more abducted victims and freeing them, before finding an inscription under a suspicious-looking altar. They then discovered that the other end of the tunnel led to a trapdoor that opened into the large and lavish private temple to the god Mars that Crassus had constructed behind his house. Unfortunately, the temple was filled with people, some of them armed, and they pursued our heroes into the night, stealing horses and setting off at breakneck speed down the steep slope leading off the Palatine towards the Forum, as the faintest hint of dawn slightly lightens the sky in front of them. But their night vision excellent, thanks to a spell cast by Gaius. They realise the horses are not just scared of the dark, something else is frightening them. And looking to their left, running alongside them and keeping pace just 50 yards away, is a pack of wolves. So, it is night, but dawn isn't that far away, probably an hour or so before it'll be light enough to see easily unaided.
Mm-hmm.
And you are steering your horses, which can't really see all that well, through very dark conditions, down very steep slopes, coming off the Palatine Hill and heading down into the Forum, loosely heading east. To give you
May you put the map up then?
I can indeed.
Yes, because that's away from the ludus, is that right?
Yeah,
and for the record, that's the most polite I'm going to be this evening.
The ludus is just off to the southwest of the Palatine Hill.
Yeah, cool.
And where do we live?
At the ludus.
Okay, no, that's fine. Right. And how are the horses doing? Are they still holding up? Are they getting a bit tired now? What's going on with them? I mean, I should ask Gaius because he can talk to them after all.
He can if he's willing to cast the spell to do so.
How's your horse doing? Because mine's feeling a bit tired, and I don't know. I don't know quite what to. You're the person who can talk to them. What's going on?
Did you want me to do that? Because now doesn't seem like the time, and he looks around at the people chasing them and the wolves off on their flank, and
I'm just saying, don't be shy. So we've got how many people chasing us? About 50.
As far as you can tell, there are 3 or 4 wolves.
Oh, only 3 or 4?
Only 3 or 4.
Okay.
They are big for wolves.
While we're galloping still on the potentially exhausted horses, I say to guys, there's not many of them, but I just think it's weird that they've got wolves in a temple dedicated to Mars, and do they not seem like they're not hunting us instinctively? Because when you're hunting something, you follow its trail, which means you have to be behind it to sniff where it's been, and they're not following our scent trail, they're running next to us.
Yep, they are keeping pace with you to one side.
I mean, so either that or it's one hell of a coincidence.
True.
Did we not see, was it a mural or some kind of mosaic? Wasn't there something wolf related in underneath the temple?
There was. In the mural there were themes of wolves. Not particularly surprising. If you remember the poem, it mentions the Lupercal. So it's not particularly surprising that there would be wolves on the mosaic. In fact, I think you did an actual check to work out what some of the things meant, whether you knew what they meant.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel we got two choices. We can lead them home and deal with them there, and I think that's bad. Or we can lead them down to, I don't know, that quiet place over on the other side of town, where we can choose our ground and maybe try and defeat them. Maybe.
Listen, I feel as though I'm somewhat of a spectator here. You're the Slayer. I'm following your lead.
Okay, let's. Ben, I'm assuming that we've got local knowledge.
Yes, you know your way around the city.
So there must be like a quiet place or a small garden or somewhere that's large enough to park a horse and then flank the entrance and prepare for like 3 wolves to follow us in.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're looking for somewhere not too big, enclosed, reasonably quiet.
Yes, dark.
All right. Then this is perhaps a good opportunity to do a quick check.
Okay.
I want you to check your intelligence and knowledge, please.
Okay.
So roll 1d10, add 2 for your intelligence and 1 for your knowledge.
Okay.
So plus 3 total.
I got 11.
11 total. Right.
Nice.
Now, if you remember, you get success levels based on 9, 11, 13, and so on. And so you have a success level on this one of 2.
Nice.
So with a success level of 2, I can tell you that just off the eastern edge of the forum, there is a temple yard, part of the extension for a number of temples, most notably the Temple of Vesta, which is just the other side of the forum. And that garden is used, it's a private garden and is open to the public periodically. Nobody bothers to lock it, there's nothing valuable in it. But it is very much a garden with a wall, with a quiet aspect where priests and priestesses tend to go and meditate and mingle outside their walls. Most notably, of course, the priestesses of Vesta have very limited places they can go and do that. Famously, they have significant restrictions on their lives.
But they're not really allowed to mingle, are they, those girls?
Exactly. So they tend to go out mob-handed in the middle of the day and sit around the garden for a bit and then head back again to the temple.
Okay.
I just had a really weird vision of that whole conversation going on inside Clarissa's head, and then her just saying out loud, well, they're not really allowed to mingle, are they, those girls?
They don't really mingle.
That's all Gaius gets.
yeah, exactly. Okay, so she just steers. She steers them both. I know a place. Come on, let's go this way.
All right.
And then when we reach the entrance to the garden, immediately she's going to dismount, hopes that the horse goes to the back, but figures that she doesn't quite have enough time to make sure it's going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then instantly flattens herself against one side of the entryway with weapons drawn, ready to ambush whoever comes through next.
Okay. All right. And Gaius, what are you doing?
He's going to parallel park his horse.
Yeah. Well, you said park. Gaius will he'll do the same, but mirrored on the other side of the entranceway, if that's possible. And once he's against the wall, can I attempt to cast a spell?
Certainly can. What would you like to cast?
Can I? I would like to make the image of Gaius and Clarissa I guess, in the middle of the courtyard, slightly closer towards their entranceway.
Sort of in towards the middle of the garden, so effectively if they chase in towards it, they'll go straight past you.
Yeah.
Hello, come and get us.
Okay.
Oh, that's not us.
All right. That's going to be a number of 2, effectively. A duration, how long do you need it to last? A few minutes?
Yeah, depending on how far they are behind us, but I would guess 5 minutes tops.
Okay. All right. So let's call that a 1, and it's a fairly minor illusion, so fairly straightforward. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. I think, given what you're doing, that's 2 + 1 + 3. In order to make that happen, you're going to need to cast 3 success levels, basically. So what we will do is we will bring up Gaius's card. Your intellect, please, plus your sorcery. Your occultism of 7. So that's a +10, please.
It's a 6 on the dice, +10 is 16.
Okay, this is no problem at all. You can keep that up for as much as 5 or 6 minutes if you need to. No trouble at all.
Nice. Yeah. Then he'll be as quiet as possible against the opposite wall.
Right.
Clarissa does a very big OK sign. She remains surprised that Gaius is suddenly really good with this magic lark.
Right.
There's been a few incidences.
And she still remembers what happened when you tried to cook dinner that one time.
It isn't minutes, it's seconds before you start to realise that the wolves are upon you. They come in through the entranceway in an unusual sort of pattern. One comes to each side, and the other 2 are slightly behind them in the middle of the entranceway, but not looking towards your illusion. Their heads are very much tracking the one in front and to their outside, as if they're going in behind to provide support as needed.
So there are how many? There are 3 or there are 4?
There are 4 in total.
4. So one goes either side, and then there's one behind each of them. So it's sort of two
sort of shoulder to shoulder in the middle, and they are tracking the one on the outside of each of them. It would be unusually coordinated behaviour for a set of wolves, put it that way. Moreover, they completely ignore your carefully created illusion. Both of them, both pairs, literally turning as soon as they pass the corner of the wall to each side.
So they see us immediately.
And see you almost immediately. Remember, it's very dark, and they are working mostly on scent. But they do, they work out where you are, and they turn as soon as they enter the garden.
And are they both fixated on me, or do we have a pair on each of us?
A pair on each. A pair each side. Essentially one snug against the gatepost and the wall, and then one just behind and just a little bit further out from the wall. For each of you.
Okay.
And we are in combat. I now need to know what you're going to do, and then we'll determine initiative order based on your choices.
Okay. If I'm able to go first, I will shout to Gaius, climb, just go up, get out of the way. And then the pair that are closest to me, I'm going to try and jump like into the air and land on the one that's not closest to the wall, because I've got a better chance of not getting stuck next to architecture.
Okay.
So I'm going to try and land with my weapons out and mounting that one. So hopefully he can't bite me. I'm going to, from his position, because my understanding is he's quite close to the one in front of him. So as I land, I'm going to try and stab the one in front of him, probably in the side, in the ribs, with my knife.
Okay. All right. So you are going to yell even as you're jumping, basically.
Yeah.
And try and leap over the first one and land on the
Yeah.
second one with your knives out.
Yeah, with some clever, flippy, somersaulty, unnecessary gymnastics in the air, so that I kind of do a 180 turn and I'm facing forward, if that makes any sense.
Yes, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. We'll worry about that one in a second. Gaius, what are you doing?
Gaius is going to shout out to Clarissa. Well, I think that's the quickest plan B yet. And then he'll frantically look around for ideally an easy way to climb up the wall, but if not that, tree or something else in the. You said garden, didn't you?
Yeah.
A tree or something else that looks like it's climbable.
All right.
And then start climbing.
Okay. As you're attacking immediately, Clarissa, and you don't have to move in order to begin your attack move, which includes a bit of acrobatics as you go.
Nice.
You have the fast reaction time quality. So I'm going to give you first up.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Luke.
I'm just sitting here with my Belgian Rioja, you know.
Don't bring it up.
Oh, stop it. It was a punch back, doesn't it, Ben? Love you. Anyway, right, yeah.
So, what we're going to do is start with you. You're going to leap on and attack this wolf. Okay. Yeah. So we will start with your acrobatics, please, and this will potentially add, if you do it well, a bonus to your ensuing combat attack. So what we're going to do is use your dex plus your acrobatics, which is plus 12. So 1d10 plus 12, please.
Okay, 7 plus 12, 19.
A total of 19. Okay, that's, not bad. Really.
Thanks.
It's all right.
On 1d10.
That's 5 as a success level. Okay, so you successfully make your leap. The one in front will, as you come past, get a chance to try to intercept. And he's missed anyway. You land on the one behind, and you are using a knife, did you say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that as a stayer, I've got weapons fairly easily accessible when I'm out and about on patrol, so there must be a knife hanging somewhere from my belt.
Yep, don't see why not. So please make an attack. That's dex plus, in this case, melee. Medieval. So 6 plus 5 is 11 plus your
11.
Plus your d10, please.
It's another 7. 18.
18, okay. And all right, you do in fact overwhelm him to a success level difference of 2. So you get that plus some damage delivered. The base damage of a knife is your strength, which is 6 times 2, so 12 damage in total, plus the 2 you had over, so a total of 14 damage. You drive the knife in. The wolf falls slightly to the side, but not because it's too wounded. It's falling in order to throw you off its back. And it sort of tumbles.
No. I'm stabbing the wolf in front. The one that I'm on, I'm not attacking. It's the wolf in front of me. So as I land, I'm leaning forward to thrust the knife into the
other
wolf.
one. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, he still turns on the spot, sort of sitting his haunches down and spinning around to face you. It looks like it really hurt him, but it doesn't look like anything incapacitating.
Damn it.
Okay. Right. Mm-hmm. The next one to go is the one you're sitting on. This wolf suddenly, you can feel it. It's not there anymore. It's gone. And you're not looking at it. You're not paying attention to what it's doing. There's this sort of weird, faint puff of mist, and suddenly you're dropping down to your knees on the ground, and you get this very strong sense that there's someone standing right behind you.
Horror! Okay.
And that someone launches an attack.
Of course I do this shit. Alright, I'm ready. I'm ready.
But you probably don't need to worry. I'm going to ask that you roll, but I wouldn't panic too much if I were you. He rolled a 1.
Oh, no. We rolled... Bless him. I rolled a 6. Oh, no, it's upside down. I rolled a 9. Oh, wait, it's a 9. Oh, well, I rolled a 9.
It's fine. He completely fails to land a hit on you. Sparrow, hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us. So he completely fails to land a hit on you, I'm afraid. I mean, you're probably not afraid about that, but I'm irritated by it. So we move on to the wolf you stabbed.
It's all right, guys is going to get chumped now. Oh, the wolf I stabbed's got something to do. Okay, gosh, yeah. Okay.
That wolf has spun around to face you and is now going to launch its own attack. So once again, I'm afraid you're going to need to roll a d10, and let's see how this lines up.
2 this time.
That's a bit better. So your 2 is plus Dex plus Medieval is plus 11 is 13?
Yeah.
Right. And you've got a 9. So we're going to find out something very useful in a second. Which is enough to actually beat you, but only by 1, which isn't enough to take it to a different success level. So you basically parry him. The attack. So you parry it successfully. Doesn't go anywhere. Okay?
It just makes me look cool.
Yep.
Pow!
Yes.
And I'm parrying while on my knees on the floor. I mean, that's indeed. Just Friday where I'm from.
To be fair, he's a wolf, so you're more or less at eye level.
I'm just kind of slapping his face a bit.
Okay.
2 sound effects. Welcome, everyone. Hey, Bink's here. Hi, Bink.
Good evening.
Hello, Bink.
Nice to have you with us.
Hello, Bink. Yeah.
So, we move to the other side of the doorway. Guys, on the basis that you're planning to run and evade, and you were from a standing start, I'm going to give the wolf nearest you first go, effectively as you try and run away from him.
No, I don't agree, Ben. I think that's unfair and ridiculous. No, that makes sense. Go.
So, because of that, can you please roll a Dex plus melee in this case, which is yes. plus 7 and your D10.
That's a 6. Plus 7 is 13.
Okay. The wolf swings with its jaws snapping sideways, trying to catch your your Achilles as you run. But it misses. Jaws snap on empty air, and you now have a chance to make your way to a tree if you'd like to. There are a few of them in the middle of the garden to provide some shade, and you can bolt that way and try to climb if you want.
Yes, I will do so.
Can you do it with Xander-like clumsiness, just for lols?
Like a little stagger along the way. Definitely missteps while trying to take off, which lets the wolf get the first going.
To be fair, the guy's got good acrobatics. He's agile.
We shall see. Is that what you're after, Ben? Acrobatics.
Yeah, I think if you want to leap up a tree, acrobatics and probably strength. You've got to lift yourself up. So that's
okay.
2 plus 3.
Plus a 10. I was worried there for a minute that it was going to be a 0, but
okay.
Then I remembered how D10s work.
All right, and it is enough. It's enough, but only just. You actually reach the branch of the tree, leap up to grab it, and sort of as you swing your legs, just your own momentum swinging your legs underneath you, you can actually see the other wolf charge through underneath, trying to grab you. But he misjudges and goes past, and you're able to swing your legs up and over the branch.
Wonderful. I kind of hold on to it with both arms and legs after landing a little bit heavily, I guess, in a clumsy Xander-like way.
Mm-hmm.
Just for
Thank you.
Okay, which means everyone who's here is gone. So, next combat round. What do people want to do? Clarissa, what are you up for?
So I got a dude behind me, and I've got an injured wolf who isn't incapacitated yet, and I'm on my knees. So I've got to do the heroic acrobatics, right? I've got to flip backwards onto my hands, and then push from a handstand, up into kind of a somersault, aiming to land sitting on the guy behind me's shoulders, and then maybe squeeze his neck with my thighs, while I throw my dagger at the wolf that I didn't manage to kill in the last round.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That makes sense. And the... Okay. And Gaius, what's your plan?
Gaius is going to make his way to his feet on the branch. I'm assuming it's reasonably... Is it a standing up kind of...
Yeah, you can stand on it, bracing yourself against the tree trunk.
He'll do it very delicately and cautiously. Quick question, would I have seen the wolf that Clarissa was on disappear and then reappear?
I'm afraid your back was to that fight, running towards a tree.
That's fair enough. In which case, I will attempt to... I'll cast a spell. Do you need to know what it is?
Yes, please.
I would like...
It's a secret spell, and you just win.
only on the basis
just
of...
shout success, and then we'll go from there.
Too in depth, if we didn't need to. I would like to... The two wolves that are by me, I would like to levitate them up in the air. Very, very high.
Okay.
With an aim to then stop it.
All right.
And have...
Okay, fair enough. You so you basically want to lift them rapidly into the air until they're high above you.
Yeah.
And then at some convenient moment, possibly towards the end of this combat round, if it all works, you want to drop them from a great height.
Yes, ideally not on the tree in which I'm currently standing. Somewhere.
Yeah, sure. Okay. When you say a great height, so I can have some idea of how long it's going to take to get them up there and how long this is going to be. How high are we talking? I mean, are we talking 30 feet or 100 feet or 10,000 feet?
I would say somewhere closer to 30, 40. That feels
Okay.
like high enough to put two regular things out of commission, should we
Yeah.
say?
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. So yes, the height of a reasonably sized house, kind of height. Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. So okay, that will essentially take the duration of your round to envision and then cast. So I'm going to come back to you towards the end.
Perfect.
Clarissa, the first one who's going to get an attack, because you're sort of bracing yourself for a big epic move, is going to be the wolf facing you eye to eye. Okay?
Okay.
And this is going to be a straight melee attack. So.
Oh, I tell you what, though, depending on how this goes, can I slightly amend my move in response? Because if he's going to try and bite me and I'm about to backflip, if he doesn't do very well, can I aim a kick at his mouth with my foot as I go over?
I would be disappointed in you if you didn't.
Thank you very much. That's what I thought.
Okay. So
I mean, I'd like to land a random kick, is what I'm saying.
Dex plus melee, please. That's plus 13 for you.
Oh, okay.
That's
I
a good one.
said 10. 23.
It won't surprise you to learn that as you do your backflip, you do indeed land a solid kick on the jaw of this wolf. You're an experienced combatant. You wouldn't think it had actually done it any real harm. Bit surprising, given that it's a wolf, but it didn't seem. I mean, it knocked its head to one side, but it immediately just snapped back and glared at you. Not like it was really suffering from a really firm impact. However, you complete your move, and you do indeed land literally straddling the neck of the other assailant, who is now clearly visible to you as you look down. He's a slightly built man, essentially. Very
The little
simply built.
scrawny fella.
Yeah.
That's no fun.
Yeah, skinny.
Oh, well.
And
Does he have hair?
yes, he's got sort of sandy coloured hair.
Is it long enough for me to grip with my fingers and start to pull on quite hard?
No, it I suppose you'd say it looks a little bit like it's been deliberately cut close, like he's military or something like that.
Fine. I'll grab his ears then.
Okay. All right. And what are you going to do?
Yeah, that's the end of... Well, really, it's just to irritate him at this point and to try. Well, I feel like I'm going to be fairly securely anchored. I can cross my feet at the ankles to make sure he can't shake me off. So really, it's just to irritate him. I feel I've got the element of surprise. So grabbing onto his ears, it's just going to really piss him off.
Okay. All right. You grab onto his ears. It is his go next, and he reaches down and takes hold of your ankles and tries to push upwards with your ankles to tip you off his back, basically down onto the ground.
Oh, okay.
And this is going to be a strength plus your acrobatics in your case, please.
Would you like to know my counter move if he's successful?
Sure, but for the moment, we need to work
counter
out whether or not he's going to be able to overpower you in order to do it.
Okay.
So
it's Dex plus acrobatics again.
Strength plus acrobatics, please. You're holding on.
It's 12.
So plus 12.
Oh my god, it's 22. These 10s! Why can't I roll like this in orbital blues? Come on.
The D10s are mocking me, aren't they?
They are.
He grabs firm hold and he pushes. But you are firmly gripping onto him. Absolutely firmly. And he does not manage to shift you. If it does cross your mind at this point, the amount of force he has exerted, given that it's not a very comfortable position and he just had to lift using his biceps basically, he could probably, using that amount of force, have picked up one of those horses no trouble at all.
Holy shit, but he's only a scrawny fella.
Yeah. He is, it turns out, extremely strong. Okay.
Like, unnaturally strong.
Certainly that would be your guess, yeah. So.
Okay.
Unnatural for a human stroke also wolf.
A little scrawny 5'7" fella.
Yeah, even for a guy who can turn from a wolf into a person at will.
Yeah.
Unusually strong for those kind of people, yeah.
He's just randomly strong, is what you're saying.
He's very strong. Yeah. So, Gaius, the wolves below you don't immediately leap at you. They sort of seem to look at each other as if they are making a decision about how to go after you. And one of them then braces himself against the tree while the other looks like he's about to legit leap up and see if they can get to you. But that process of them sort of reassembling and deciding what to do, I think it's got to basically take them a turn before they can land a real hit on you. So I'm going to let you roll your magic attack at the end of this turn, and if it fails, we'll see what they do next time.
Cool.
So, Sparrow, imagine someone who could bench press a horse without any trouble.
I love Sparrow so much. I'm gonna be like, stronger than wind, stronger than tree, stronger than stone, strong.
Higher or lower? Stronger than.
And then we can start getting super abstract. So stronger than how much I love you. That's how strong. Stronger than birds sing. That's strong.
That's pretty strong.
Stronger than Rochefort.
Yeah. Stronger than Ben Sean. Mm-hmm.
Ben Sean.
Yeah, because he got shaved today.
Yeah.
Sean.
Yeah.
I just didn't know whether there was a famous person called Ben Sean that I was unfamiliar with.
No. It's just a powerfully emotional moment for Sparrow.
Yeah. I can imagine.
I'm sure it is. So yes, can you roll your spell attack, please? This will be your intellect, please, plus your occultism, so a total of plus 11.
Lovely. It's not good. That's a 1. Plus 11 is 12.
Is 12. And 12 is actually just enough. Only just. It's not that complicated a thing. Just a straightforward push upwards. But it's going to be not as smooth sailing as you might think. So over the course of the effect, you see these two wolves literally suddenly accelerate past you up to...
Oh, I'm sorry. Cats, stop. I'm sorry.
The wolves literally shoot up past you as if gravity's inverted for them for a moment. They fly high into the sky above the tree. You can see them looking quite baffled by this turn of events. And then you cut the spell and they begin to plummet. About halfway down, one of them suddenly puffs into a cloud of mist. And as you watch, as it's coming back past you, that cloud of mist reforms into a large black bat. And the bat flies west of you, away over the garden wall. And you're so busy watching this happen, you've lost sight of the other one. That one has also gone through a transformation and has turned into a fairly tall, well-built man who lands with impossible balance lightly on the branch right beside you.
Okay. Do I have anything left at the end of my go?
No,
Can
but to be
I?
fair, nor does he. So we'll
Okay.
we'll do that at the beginning of the next one.
Yeah, cool. That's all good.
Clarissa, what are you up for?
Okay, so I'm on this guy's shoulders. He cannot shake me off, but I take it I'm facing the tree and I'm seeing what's just happened with you and then this other fella and the misty bat.
Yeah, I mean, you're not facing literally straight at the tree, but it's in your field of view, yeah.
I can see. Okay. Okay. I'm trying to think of a way of doing what I want to do while making it look like super cool and exciting. Okay, so this guy whose shoulders I'm on, he's putting all of his attention into trying to shake me off. That's his entire focus.
That is, you basically, because
Okay.
you've got his head trapped between your thighs, and he's literally just
Easy,
hauling
easy, John.
at your feet, at your ankles, to try and tip
Okay.
you over backwards. Yeah.
Okay. I am going to maintain my grip with my knees. I'm going to suddenly throw my weight backwards, and I'm going to try and tug him over after me. So almost like, you know, like those Cirque du Soleil performers where they form a ball around each other. Do you know what I mean? Where they're kind of both two halves of a barrel.
Yeah.
Look, Sparrow, I'm trying to behave. Yeah, so she's going to try and do that.
All right.
But at the same time, her intention is just to get him on the bottom of the barrel. So she's going to roll, and assuming that she's strong enough to pull him after her, as he is face down on the floor, if he gets to that point, she's going to try and just somehow subdue him on the floor there. I think she's still got a knife in her hand or something, so she's going to maybe hold the knife against his neck and say don't, in an effort to subdue him.
All right. Okay. Even though at its end it's quite a complicated thing, it's a very quick thing to begin.
Yes.
But so is his move.
Yeah, it's just a sudden.
So, I'm going to let you start it and see if you can you can begin to pull him backwards, if you see what I mean, and then see if what he's doing interferes with that at all. So let's start with your strength and acrobatics, please. So that's plus 12.
12. Oh, I need a good number here. 10. How am I rolling all these 10s?
Nice.
Okay, so that's 22, isn't it?
22.
That's 6. Now, what he was planning to do, just so you know, he decided to stop trying to lift you off backwards, and instead he was literally going to throw himself forwards to try and smash you, bend down as he went to try and smash you against the wall.
Oh, silly puppy.
Now, in actual fact, it's arguably a bit of unnecessary flavour, but he rolled really well. And I don't think that would end well for him in this precise situation. Because he's effectively trying to hurl himself forward at the same time as you're trying to pull him over backwards.
So I sort of propel him forward is the end result?
No, I think as you come off, there is a brief moment as you fall off backwards and you think, he's lighter than I thought.
That's shit.
And then by the time you land, he is an expanding cloud of dust, just drifting on the wind.
Did he go vampire puff?
He did.
Oh, we got our first vampire.
Because he was using his rather impressive strength to try and basically throw his body forward at the same time as you were trying to pull his head backwards. It didn't end well. He pulled his head off.
Oh. Okay. So, she takes a moment and then looks at Gaius and said, turns out I was just too headstrong. And then gets up. Had you said something other than pull his head off, I could have gone, oh, he lost his head in the battle. But yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Yep.
Anyway, she comes up with a shitty one-liner, like you do.
Yeah.
And
then looks down at the other wolf.
The wolf that's directly in front of you, who is now the only one that's still a wolf. Let me check. Okay. He turns and starts sprinting out of the garden through the gate.
Oh, no, you don't. No. So wait, he's been kicked fairly sharply in the face and stabbed in the ribs, and he's still sprinting.
Yep.
Okay.
He's as strong as birds can sing. Don't you know?
Yeah.
Apparently that's the thing.
It's yeah. Birdsong, man. Don't mess with it. Okay. I take it all of this is happening concurrently with whatever's going to happen to Ewan in a minute.
Yeah. So if you're setting off in pursuit, we'll do Ewan before we come back to you.
Yeah, I don't know yet.
Okay.
I haven't made a decision.
Then Ewan, you are literally standing on a branch, braced against a tree trunk, and at the other end of the branch, standing there, is a person. His face seems oddly distorted, but you've seen that kind of distortion before, and he is clearly a vampire.
Yes, I like to think that Gaius has the whereabouts to piece that and the witty one-liner from Clarissa together and realise what he's up against. You're going to have to tell me, Ben, the branch that they are stood on. Mm-hmm. Are there any? You know, I'm going to be on it, like blatantly obvious with what I'm trying to do here. Is there any stake-like wood, like twigs, not twigs, but thicker branches coming up that might possibly be, with a little bit of help, it will be possible to throw them onto?
You know what? I'm going to suggest you can roll an intelligence with notice, please. That's what's that for you? +5 total.
Okey-dokey.
8.
That's 5 plus 5.
Oh, sorry, +8. You're quite right.
Oh, sorry, that's 5 plus 8.
Yeah, 13.
Which is 12. 13.
Okay. Not on the branch, but if you're the sort of uncomfortable feeling poking in the middle of your back is anything to go by, there might be something on the trunk behind you.
Okay. I like to think at this point that Gaius is sort of it's in the person land on the branch and nervously stepped backwards, trying to tiptoe away from them while keeping their balance. Mm-hmm. And then I've got nothing else. Can I cast another spell, please? Can I?
You can.
Step out of the way, and I would like to make the spiky bit of tree, shoot off the tree and stab the vampire in the heart.
Okay. You want to do that effectively as you are plummeting.
Yeah. Unless there's anything that I can sort of, side step onto and then clumsily fall off.
Not really. I mean, you can I mean, it's only the tree branch is only 7 feet, say, off the ground. You can probably jump off it and land reasonably safely. I suspect, however, doing that while casting would be more of a challenge. You might have to land and then try and cast, assuming he didn't react. And since his attack is just going to be charge in and attack, I'm afraid I'm going to have to give him the first go, because even if you drop off the tree immediately and let gravity take over, he can still get to you before you've fallen very far.
Yes, that's fair.
He is,
and to be fair, I can see this, ending really well either way. To be fair.
Oh yeah, I'm expecting
good things are going to happen.
Okay, so he's going to make an attack. I'm going to suggest you need to. You can I mean, I would offer you your pick of acrobatics or melee, but they're both 3 for you. So that plus dex, please. So +7.
Cool. Can we go for acrobatics, and he'll try and leave it to the very last moment before jumping out of the tree?
Yeah. Okay.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yes, it does.
That's a 10.
Oh yes.
That's pretty good. He rolled a 10 too.
Oh no.
Which actually gives him slightly better result than you, but only by 1 success level. So
Oh, good night, John. Thank you so much for stopping by, and have really good sleep.
thank you, John.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully we'll see you soon.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So, strength. All right. You take a total of 6 life points down.
Ooh.
As he grabs you around the throat and pins you against the tree. I mean, you're a little bit off the branch now and on the way down, but he did manage to grab you as he came in. His agility was far too much to run into the thing on the trunk, I'm afraid. And he is now basically holding you by the throat. By your just natural reaction, you're now grasping his forearm with your hands. However, it's going to take him a moment to actually pull you back up again. So if you want to cast a spell, now is the moment.
Wonderful. And I take it that the sharp pointed bit of tree is no longer in my back at this point.
No, it's effectively facing towards him. You're off the branch.
Wonderful. I would like to cast said spell that I mentioned before about the tree shooting bits of smaller tree.
Okay.
Towards vampire hearts, please.
+3. Okay. You're going to need basically to hit a success level of 3 for this.
Wonderful. Is that +11?
This will
Is that what we
be
said?
plus your occultism and your intelligence, so plus 12.
Wow. Okay, you've got this. Come on, guys.
That's a 6 plus 12 is 18.
18. 18 is in fact a level 5. So you cast your spell. The the spell launches. You see this oddly shaped lump of improvised weapon strike out and stab him straight into the chest. I need you to roll an attack, please, for the lump of wood to find out what it actually does when it hits him. It's not going to have any actual particular skills beyond its weapon capability.
Cool.
So I'm going to suggest its strength is the excess that you hit. So it's going to automatically do him 4 points of damage. And can you roll a d10 for me, please? And add your knowledge and your intellect.
I can indeed.
+9.
Hello, Infinite Monkey Tails. Thanks for the raid, by the way.
Oh, IMT, welcome. Welcome.
That's a 9 plus 9 is 18.
Is 18. Okay.
Yes. Why now?
All right. He does not react particularly well or particularly swiftly. The improvised wooden object slams into the middle of his chest. Your knowledge as to where exactly to aim it was flawless. And initially, as it goes in, he's absolutely convinced that it was barely a scratch. Those 4 points of damage it did are nothing. But your spell isn't quite over yet. And as he's bringing you up for the coup de grace, your mind is frantically pushing against this wooden stake, and it drives deeper and deeper and deeper. And that initial attack isn't where it ends. And suddenly you're falling through a little expanding cloud of dust as the stake pierces his heart, and he is no more. Can you roll an acrobatics, please, with dexterity? That's +7.
7. That's an 8 plus 7 is 15.
15. Okay.
These dice tonight.
Despite the sort of slightly unexpected sudden drop, you do land it smoothly and calmly, landing and sort of looking around you, a bit startled, but completely in charge of yourself.
Guys, is a badass.
Gaius kind of dusts himself off and straightens up his lapels or his collar, and just shouts out to Clarissa, "Well, I think mine got the point."
Oh, no.
It clearly did. Yep.
Yeah.
Undeniably got the point. Yeah.
Oh, Croy wrote an adventure. That sounds amazing, IMT.
It does
Oh,
indeed.
and Cthulhu Dark. So this was moderns, yeah? Brilliant.
Nice.
Fantastic. That's great.
Oh, and also hello and welcome to somebody we're just meeting for the first time. Volpe? I don't know. Volpe. Yeah. Anyway, hello. It's lovely to meet you. Hello and welcome. Oh, good. Yeah, we're good. We're just bring you all up to date. We are Buffying. This is Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but it's Clarissa in Rome.
Yes.
And we're just fighting off a pack of, 4 wolves who weren't actually wolves. Ancient Rome.
Yeah.
Yes, the rules are the Buffy the Vampire Slayer RPG, but but this scenario is set in ancient Rome. Okay. One has flown off. 2 have been dispatched. There is 1 left. and
Well, it's taken off up the road.
and it is, as you say, running, and you are in pursuit, Clarissa.
Yeah, well, as I turn to follow it, I see that there's a heart-stopping moment when it looks like Gaius is about to get zapped by a vampire, but he does another badass spell, and as she's about to exit the garden, she sees him brush himself off, and he got the point, and she's like, wow. And then, yeah, doesn't have time really to process or respond. She's busy chasing after this wolf that's trying to escape.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole thing, really. She's just running as fast and hard as she can. When she's within range, she's going to try and launch herself. Just, straightforward rugby tackle, arms like around its... Well, it's already got a wounded chest, so she's going to try and grasp it around the back legs and chest again.
All right. Can you roll double dex for me, please? So
Double
plus
dex,
12.
is that 2?
Yeah, so plus 12.
Okay. Oh, 8. 20.
Yeah. That'll do it. He would have needed a really good one to get away from you, and he didn't have a really good roll. Because for some reason, you guys are rolling brilliantly tonight, and me not so much.
Yeah, I don't understand.
The D10's heard.
The D10s
yes,
are
the other
clearly
thing you all
cursed.
should know is Ben does not like D10s, and we tease him remorselessly for it, and tonight they're on our side.
Especially when we're playing a D10 system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. He makes it a matter of a few yards beyond the gate before you're on top of him. So, what are you doing as you get there?
She's going to make sure he's incapacitated, and she's going to pull him down and then just try and put her entire weight on him with, I'm assuming she's able to reach another weapon, maybe a stake or something, and hold that against his throat. And see what his response is. Like, assuming that she's got some kind of physical control over him, she's going to then see what he does when his life is being very, very directly threatened.
All right. Because of the nature of what you're doing here, I'm going to suggest this isn't actually a true melee attack, nor is it a medieval weapon attack. I think this is an acrobatics attack at speed. So we're going to roll at plus 12, please.
May my dice rolls hold.
And he is going to try double dex.
Do you know you're not going to believe it? It's a 9.
Damn it! I finally get a 9, and it doesn't matter.
Oh,
Really?
now they're just rubbing it in.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel bad now. Like, it's unsportsmanlike at this point.
Yeah.
So, you do indeed land, trip. The two of you, slide and tumble a bit across the open ground of the forum. You have one knee pressed against his sort of his haunches, a hand pressed against his shoulder, and a stake held up, which he's looking at with some caution.
Okay. And she says, "And you messed up my new sandals." Yeah.
So perfect.
Okay. He's just glaring at you.
So, no sign of a transformation. He's not getting all wispy.
Nope.
He's not growling. What's the condition of this? Can I take a second to just glance at where I stabbed him in his ribs?
Yep.
Is it bleeding? Is there evidence that there's actually a wound there at all?
Oh, there's clearly a wound there, and there's even some evidence of a bit of bleeding. But you're very close to him now. You can feel him breathing. You can feel the way he moves. It obviously hurt, but it's not It's not slowing him down. It's not making him change behaviour at all. He doesn't care that it hurts. He doesn't stop because of it.
And is there any kind of an amulet or, a token on him anywhere that, I don't know, maybe he's wearing a medallion or a necklace or something?
Nope, nothing at all. Just a wolf.
Nothing at all. It's just a wolf.
Well, it looks like a wolf.
Well, in that case... Cool. This is where me and Clarissa kind of diverge because I'm like, it's just a wolf. And she's like, kill him. She's just going to cut his throat then. He's dangerous and he's pursued her and he was with 3 other weird dudes. So she's going to cut his throat.
You're going to cut his throat?
Yeah. I mean, I feel bad, but Clarissa's pretty adamant.
All right. Okay. Make an attack, please, with a knife that's medieval plus. In this situation, you've got a fair amount of control over him. I'm going to go with strength plus medieval, so plus 11, please.
Okay. That time it's only a 4, so 15.
Yeah, 15 will do it. As he struggles underneath you, you drive in strength plus 2, 12, plus your over, which is 1, which means a total of 13 damage to him.
That's 27 in all so far then.
Yeah, you've stuck in. You started tearing through, and as the blade goes through, indeed, his throat is sliced right across, right down to the spine. And
Clarissa.
And he's still glaring at you.
What?
It's obviously hurting him. His eyes are watering. He's in a lot of pain. He's not making any noises at all now with his throat cut, but he's still breathing. He's still struggling. He's still fighting.
Okay. I mean, I'm freaked out, but Clarissa's like, fine, just properly kill him. She's just gonna drive the knife into his ribcage now, like everything she can do to kill him, because it's clearly an unnatural creature that's got something else happening. And yeah, at this point, and as much as that as to just put him out of his obvious suffering.
All right.
It's just important that he's finished as quickly as possible now.
Fair enough. Strength plus medieval, please. So plus 11.
Heaven's sakes. I rolled another 10. Yeah, 10, so 21.
His struggles couldn't shift it at all. You've driven right through. You know this knife has gone through both lungs and through the heart. You pull it out. There's a little soft trickle of blood from the wound. He's breathing. He's glaring at you. He's in agony. He's shaking like a leaf.
He's absolutely not dying.
But he is not
even though
dying.
I know that I have now done as much damage as I would need to kill a normal wolf.
If this were a normal wolf, you'd probably have killed it maybe 10 times over. Yes.
Half an hour ago.
Yeah.
Can Gaius have made his way over at this point?
Yes, I don't see why not. It didn't get very far.
And he'll just
turn to... and she says over her shoulder, he just won't die, Gaius. He just won't die.
I would perhaps suggest that this one too is a vampire.
Oh. She gets the stake. And then offers it to Gaius, who appears to be on form with the vampires tonight. So, hey, you wanna do the honours?
Honestly, I would have liked to ask them some questions, but I think that might be out of the...
He's a wolf. A vamp wolf.
You do the honours, you're the slayer.
She, without even...
Remember your training.
This thing's completely incapacitated now, so she just almost casually hits him with the stake in the right place, like she's been trained to 1,000 times before.
Oh, that
okay. Exactly, yes. Wham. Yes. In this case, strength, please, plus medieval. That's 11.
This time it's a 2.
13?
Yeah.
Okay. He'd have probably needed a 10 to make any impact, and he didn't do that well. The the steak slides smoothly between the ribs, and before you can even pull it all the way out, the
Thanks, Sean. Love to Addie and Kelly. Mwah.
thank you for joining
Sorry,
us.
Sean's going. It was so lovely to have him.
Thanks very much.
The form beneath you, which a lot of your weight is actually on, begins to turn into mist, and suddenly you're got that one knee firmly down on the ground of the forum.
I turned me around though, because the last time this happened, there was a dude standing behind me afterwards. So I quickly check over my shoulder to make sure he hasn't just materialised.
Nope.
So he's properly dead.
He appeared. Well, yes.
He's dead.
I mean, you've seen this before. You've killed vampires before.
Okay. Fine.
The sort of pale, sickly-looking mist that they turn into when they, just for a fraction of a second, when they flick from one form to another. This isn't like that. This is the black, dusty stuff that blows away on the wind.
This is the okay. She just kind of sighs, stands up, and says to Gaius, "Wow, you got good."
Thanks. It comes and goes. I'll be honest.
The thing in the tree, that was... I'm not going to lie, I thought I was going to have to be carrying you home and making some excuses. But look at you, you're fine.
Well, there was a lot of falling and a lot of stumbling. Let's not make it seem too cool. Speaking of which, by the way...
Stumbling with style, though. Come on, you nailed that.
Maybe. Speaking of which, by the way, I can't help but think if you'd have spent a little bit less time worrying about how to look cool, we could have dispatched with those vampires a lot quicker. Just pointers for next time.
Did any get away? Well, one did, but that was your guy. No, I thought fine.
All in all, I'd say it was a successful night.
Yeah. Are the horses okay? Are they calm? Should we take them home?
I'm afraid the horses are missing.
But there was only one entrance in the garden. Oh no. Well, they weren't ours anyway. Let's just go home.
I'd imagine the horses have gone home. Yeah.
I mean,
but not
I suspect the horses will probably take another 30 or 40 hours before they'll stop running, to be honest.
Fair.
Yeah.
I mean, they were scared of them when they thought they were wolves.
But they had two tough people being all smacked down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Horses know that.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
You could have told them if you'd have decided to do your speaky pony thing again, but no, you have to do your flighty tree thing this time. It turns out all those times I threw you out the window really paid off. You learned to land on your feet finally. Good job.
Thanks. By the way, if you were looking for one of your classic one-liners after that last one, I don't know, springs to mind, well, he's not going to live to see to tell the tale, something like that,
She kind of scowls at him, but as she turns away and starts walking home, she smiles. She's quite amused by that one, but she's not going to give it away. Just like...
So are you in fact walking back to the Ludus, or do you have somewhere else you're aiming for?
Well, let's go back to the Ludus, because there's nothing else here. I take all the bodies have turned to dust or fled. So there's no evidence to gather or corpses to search. And we do have the whole Mars escapade, the Mars temple escapade to report back to the Watcher fella.
Excellent.
Gaius' dad.
Yeah, Father might know something more about wolves, potentially, than we found out.
Can you both...
Yeah, I wonder what happened to those slaves we freed as well.
Well, you haven't seen them since they fled out of the tunnel.
They didn't fall over the corpse we left behind in a big pile of crap, at least.
If I remember, you actually did try to guide them and tell them to be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's part and parcel of setting them free, I feel.
Yeah.
Offer a little guidance on the way.
Run that way, and there's nothing going to interrupt your passage out.
Watch out for the vampire wolves.
Run as fast as you can.
Can you both roll a notice check for me, please? That's a +6 for Clarissa, a +8 for Gaius.
After
8.
you. I got 7
That's
+6.
2 + 6. I did badly that time.
Okay, a total of 8. Fair enough. And what did you get, sorry, guys?
Mine was a 7 + 8 is a 15.
A 15, okay. As you walk back, you can just still see the occasional glint of light on the sort of corner of a rooftop or a bit of marble statuary. It's still very dark, but the sun is beginning to show itself in the east. It will probably be dawn in not much more than half an hour. So there's a glow behind you. As you walk, Gaius, you notice cutting through the sort of southeastern corner of the forum, you're cutting past one of the older temple remnants. This one to Vulcan. And as you go past it, you see someone lighting a lamp in the temple window, as he's probably done every day for much of his life. And he looks across and sees the two of you walking. And as he does, he yells out, you best find cover. It's not safe to be out at night in February.
Well, thank you for the advice, friend. Although it seems like it's bright enough, getting brighter.
Clarissa looks really confused. Who are you talking to? Are your invisible friends back?
Did you really hear that? Someone just shouted at us.
From where?
Have you still got dust in your ears?
There's no need for that.
I mean, I only say it because, you had twice as much dust as I did tonight flying around you.
Yeah.
True.
It's a compliment,
also,
if anything.
I don't know, he broke my sandal, so I'm just trying to figure out how to fix that while we get home.
And he'll Gaius will point over there at the temple to Vulcan.
Oh, hey! She waves happily. Hello. Oh, and then remembers that she's a slave and puts her hand down and looks at the ground.
Must remember to know my place. Yes. Yeah. Fair enough. You keep going across the southern edge of the forum, and the sort of fields immediately to the south. The fields down there on your left, there are tents and occasional sets of seats set up, because in these open fields to the south of the forum you find quite often gladiatorial contests. You're in the middle of a war literally against a whole bunch of rebellious gladiators, so right now gladiators aren't that common, and the whole area seems very much deserted. You cut round the southern tip of the Palatine, you're sort of heading over very much towards the Lupercal, but then veering slightly more to the south, towards the Circus Maximus's southern edge, and it's not too long before you see the welcoming sight of your Ludus, the one that Julius runs with you as his son and apprentice, guys. Um, and as you arrive at the Ludus, I think that's where we'll take our break.
That sounds about right. Wonderful stuff. Thank you very much, Ben. So we'll be back in. I mean, we always say 5. It's probably more like 8 minutes.
We'll be back in.
We'll be back soon.
In some minutes. Yes.
We'll be back in less time than it takes Gaius to climb into a tree, lift a bunch of guys into the air, and then fall back to the ground. Less time than that.
Yeah, it won't be all that long. That's true. It won't be all that long. So yes, if you want to stick around, that's great. We will only be a few minutes, and then we'll come back to do the second part of Clarissa the Vampire Slayer. See you soon. And welcome back. Thank you for staying with us, or for fast forwarding through that bit on VOD. Our heroes have just arrived back at the Ludus, and as they enter in through the sort of main entrance and down the passageway, they keep going straight through the house and out into the yard at the back of the Ludus, and across to the fake temple, which is sitting there being a fake temple. That's what it does. But it's really a library and training resource, of course, for our Slayer and potential allies. So, waiting there, you of course find Julius, who is looking a little tired, a little sagging. He's got various scrolls and parchments out on the table in the middle of the space, and he's been picking through them. And he looks up as you arrive back. So, how did it go?
Complicated?
Clarissa points
Guys,
at
looks at Clarissa.
Gaius and she's about to say something really, really dumb, but she sort of realises the import of the moment doesn't quite afford her a one-liner. So she just settles down and reports back everything that happened, ending with, well, I thought they would just be wolves, but it turns out they're vampire wolves, which I've never heard of before. And they all seem to be associated with this private temple of Mars that we found that was engaged in an act of active worship when we entered it. Hi.
Can Gaius chip in on the end of that quickly, and he'll just say they seemed to be tracking us as we left. I'm not sure what they know, or whether they were trying to find out perhaps the location of the Ludus.
One got away.
Or our
the other
base.
three we...
But we did deal with them, at least in a separate temple.
There was no sign of it being
Across
followed
town.
home.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've been all night researching as best I can. There are rumours, nothing more, but from what you've told me, some of these rumours might be true. A cult of vampires living in Rome, hunting in Rome. Every year, so it is rumoured, between the 14th and 17th of February, they gain the ability to change shape. And they choose preferentially the shape of the wolf. There are a lot of stories about them, but I've been hunting through, and even though some of our predecessors have left all sorts of hints and clues, no one's ever really seen it happen or been allowed to get close to it. But this prayer you found, it does give us some options, things that we didn't necessarily know before. Because it says that in addition to this place, presumably the underground temple you found, it says in the Lupercal. And, I mean, we all know where the Lupercal is. And in the Tugurium. And we all know where the Tugurium is. And then it says in the Quirinus. Now, I assume that may be something to do with the Quirinal Hill, but I don't know a specific location, so it might be worth visiting the Lupercal and the Tugurium and see if you can find anything else out. Find if you can see any more information that could help us to narrow it down. Because if this is the cult that Crassus has been protecting, if this is the cult that Crassus might even rely upon for his power, they must be stopped.
But also they're huge and they're brazen. They're clearly secure in how confident they feel about their power and their reach and their invulnerability. They're taking people in broad daylight, albeit at night, but they're not being discreet anymore. They're keeping slaves, for heaven's sakes. They're taking people off the streets.
I mean, the four of them freely changed form in the garden
of Estus. Mm-hmm.
It's, as far as we know, they're still vampires. They'll still follow the rules for vampires. They'll have to hide in the daytime, stay indoors, but
be buried in dirt, that kind of stuff.
I mean, maybe. I don't know their rituals. I think we have to find out where this Quirinus is, because I have a feeling that might be the key to the whole thing.
Clarissa's listening, but generally in these situations she just tends to stay quite quiet because she's smart, but she's not really paid to think. She doesn't have time to do all the research and the background knowledge, so she just tends to wait until somebody points her in a direction.
We can certainly ask around. I would imagine. Well,
Hey, did you say that there was a guy in that temple that was shouting out advice at you as we were walking home? Shall we ask him? Maybe he knows something.
He seemed to imply that the nighttime during February was not a sensible time to be walking around. Which, I mean, it seems reasonable from our perspective, but perhaps from the perspective of your everyday Roman citizen, it's not as obvious as it would appear to us.
Yeah, he felt strongly enough about that to be shouting it through a window in the middle of the night at strangers. Maybe we should go and have a word with him.
We could ask.
It sounds reasonable.
That's what she's got.
This chap in the Temple of Vulcan, I mean, maybe there are other priests, other priestesses who might have information which they keep in their own traditions. Not impossible.
It seems like a good first port of call, Clarissa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sounds reasonable. And presumably he's now up and about. It's, early morning, but it's morning. And there is one other thing that might be useful to you. Because you said there's a temple of Mars above the sort of ceremonial space that you found on the Palatine. Well, Mars, as we know him, is a god of war. But he wasn't always a god of war. Mars has always been the patron god of not just the city of Rome, but of Romans. And when Romans were first building their civilization, the god Mars wasn't a god of war. He was a god of agriculture. And then sometime, I don't know exactly when, his worship changed. And the god became a god of war. I don't know if that's related to this, but if this is an ancient cult, it may go all the way back to before Mars was a god of war at all.
Hmm.
Clarissa knows very little about any of this stuff. She's not a Roman.
Nope.
The temples and very specific ways of worship are really above her head, and she's happy to try and learn, but she feels that today might not be a school day.
Fair enough. Okay. So, if you have a place to head out, by all means, head out.
She first of all, she stops and she asks if she can borrow a couple of candles, because if they're going to be asking questions in the temple, 4 candles. Need some O's.
Got any O's?
No, okay, yeah. Every North American just looked at us completely blankly. By the way, sorry. We'll put it in Discord. Don't worry. So her intention is understanding that Vulcan is the god of fire, and they're going to be approaching somebody in the temple for advice. She figures the very least that she can do is, and she understands as well that candles are used by the worshippers of Vulcan to show fire being used in a beneficial form. So she's going to make a very polite offering to try and win the priest's favour of some decently sized votive candles for the temple.
Okay.
And also it gives her an excuse to be walking through the city as a slave early in the morning towards a temple. So she's literally just carrying an offering that Gaius has made.
All right. Julius thinks about this for a while and sort of scrabbles around in various pots and drawers and hiding places, and eventually comes up with a small but
well formed,
quite well worked amphora.
Oh.
And he says, "This might do. This is quite highly regarded. Phoenician rock oil, filtered for lamps. I think for the Temple of Vulcan, it might make a nice offering."
Nice, thank you. So she keeps trying to remember her place. Bless her, she accepts it, and she trying to get back into slave mode now.
Well, now she's going to be about in public, yes.
Yeah.
In daytime.
Before we leave, I know it goes without saying, and you know exactly what you're doing. And Gaius will look his father straight in the eye and say, "Father, stay inside at night and don't invite any strangers in."
Especially if they've got bleached hair and no roots.
Especially if they look like this person.
Or a weird, not South African accent. Yeah. They stay in the corner brooding and looking sexy. No, that's not a good guy.
It worries me that they were that these 4 attackers seem to be following us. So just be on your guard.
Thank you. I will keep an eye open. I should probably head to my chamber for some sleep anyway now. I've been up all night. But good luck today, and don't hesitate to wake me if you need any of my advice.
We'll give you a ring if we need you. I'm kidding, we won't, because no phones. We'll just shout really loud.
A ring?
Yeah, just give you a ring.
Gaius looks at his hands covered in rings.
FaceTime.
Yeah, the broadband is terrible.
No Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi at all in Rome. Awful.
So, so yes, the
Oh, sorry. One really quickly, and she just puts the amphora very, very carefully down and dashes inside, because she realizes she's covered in dust and sweat and crap from being in the tunnels and blood, and she realizes if she's off to make an offering to Horsehair, Gaius's tears from when he was sobbing helplessly and she had to be held, the whole bit. So she's like, to make an offering and make it look genuine, she's got to at least clean up a bit. So she hops back in really fast to put on a clean toga, brush her hair, clean her face, just broken sandal, just the whole bit, just sort herself out a bit. And then she comes out literally 3 minutes later.
Okay. All right.
I just thought if I didn't notice that small detail, then Ben's going to pull us up on it later. Well, you didn't change your clothes, and now you're a mess. So I'm like, no, you don't get that one for free.
Sorry, whilst that's going on, can Gaius just look for a spare steak lying around and stash it in like an inside pocket somewhere? Now he knows that vampires are
absolutely. Among the things it is not hard to find in this particular location are quite a lot of pre-arranged steaks, yes.
yeah, I'd imagine so. He'll just make sure he's armed. In one
single episode, Gaius has gone from pre-soldier Xander to post-army Xander. In the Halloween episode. He's gone from terrified to badass.
I'm not about pacing character progression. You should know this by now, Socks.
I know. No, it's awesome. I'm really enjoying it. But I also love that Gaius is such a badass though. He's so empowered and like, yeah, I got this. We're fine. Give me some steaks. Load me up.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool.
So okay. Once you've gathered all of your necessaries, you head out into the city. People called Romans, they are going to the Temple of Vulcan, and the two of you set off across back to the sort of southeastern corner of the Forum. It is a slightly more comfortable trip. The sun is now up. The streets are beginning to look busy. Still fairly early, but there's a fair amount of movement. Rome is a busy city in the daytime. Mm-hmm. And you cut along the edge of that field where the gladiators often fight. And then an area that actually in only 50 or 60 years from now will see the building of the Colosseum right there. And on that eastern corner, you cut into the Forum and find your way, indeed, to the Temple of Vulcan. It's a traditional classical temple. It has not only oil lamps lit in a number of the windows, but also a forge burning in a sort of stone and metal trough outside the front doors, which is tended by a couple of junior staff.
Guys will look at Clarissa as they approach and just, shall I inquire about our guardian?
Clarissa just nods. She's very dedicated to playing her part today, and she's walking just a few steps behind him. She's got her head down, her hands are in front of her carrying the amphora.
Okay.
So she just sort of nods, and she knows that you can recognise him, so she just follows you.
Yeah, and the pair of you blend pretty nicely into Rome. I mean, aside from the fact that you live in Rome, it is not that uncommon for a young Roman to be out wandering about with one of their slaves in the morning. It's a common thing to take someone to carry your bags for you and so on. This is a very recognisable sight. So indeed, you walk up to the entrance. It turns out not necessary for you to ask. The chap who spoke to you earlier is sitting just inside the front door, which is wide open on the temple.
Guys will sort of tentatively stick their head in. Hello, good morning.
Oh, good morning.
I hope you don't mind me intruding. I just wanted to thank you for your advice earlier.
Advice? Remind me.
Something to do with being out during the night hours in February in Rome.
That was you, of course. Yes. Yes.
Well, it was dark. It's hard to tell.
You're welcome, of course. A few of us live in the temple, and we've learnt to stay well inside during February nights.
If you don't mind me, sounds very sound advice, but if you don't mind me asking, why particularly February nights? It seems an odd.
I don't
specification.
I don't know the reason exactly, but temples, they are in many ways public spaces. Deeper within there are private sanctuaries, of course, but those of us who live in the temple buildings, we don't live in those private sanctuaries. We live in public spaces. And most of the year, all of the temples up and down here will have quite a pleasant evening and night with the doors open, and people can come and wake us if they have some kind of emergency. But in February, all of the temples up and down know it. You can't leave the doors open.
What happens if you do? There must be stories. There must be examples of. How have you learnt this lesson?
Sometimes you get up in the morning and someone's gone. Just gone.
Clarissa looks up super sharply. Yeah. Suddenly not thinking that she might not resemble a slave so much, but she suddenly looks very interested and very concerned. And also very much like she wants to put this oil down, so she nudges Gaius and kind of eyes the offering that we're making in an official capacity.
Are we particularly in private at this point?
You are alone with him, but not. People are wandering about, but they're not really paying any attention, as far as you can tell.
Is he the priest or
He is
the
a
head priest or the? He's a priest, but he's not boss priest. I don't know the words for religious people, but he's not like highest dude, most reverend fellow. He's not that one.
No, he is a priest.
Just a guy.
Gaius to say, oh yes, of course, my apologies. Thank you for the reminder. We did bring an offering. Gesture towards the oil. If it's not too much of an ask, perhaps we might find somewhere a bit more private for a conversation.
He looks around a bit helplessly, takes the oil that's offered. Thanks.
Clarissa whispers, "It's the good stuff from the rocks in Greece."
He thanks you profusely for it, and waves over some young lad who's obviously a junior, and presses the amphora into the guy's hands and says, "Please take this through to the offertum." And
Is it really called an offertum? Because I could have just made that up.
and the
Off it to him.
and the and the young man wanders off with it, and he says, "Somewhere more private. I mean, at this time of day, I suspect the main temple would be empty." And he leads you through a large set of double doors, which he carefully closes behind, and you find yourself in a large space, almost like a box within the outer temple structure. And the middle part of this box is a large space, which at one end is absolutely dominated by a statue of the god Vulcan. And in front of him are a set of 5 forges or braziers, none of which are lit at this point. They're waiting for an actual ceremony to take place. And he wasn't wrong. This space, despite being big, is completely deserted.
Well, I tell you what, I just Googled the statue of Vulcan, and Sparrow particularly is going to love this guy because he is fully bearded. I think we've got a, when Ben has been shorn, surrogate. He's, yeah. I'm just putting it in. I don't know where I'm putting it, actually. Let's put it in gaming.
I'm just going to put it somewhere on the internet.
Yeah. It's in our
Anywhere
Discord.
will do.
I just yeah.
Well,
he's a very impressive guy.
he waves you forward to the middle of the space and says, "I'm pretty sure no one will hear us, and after all, even Vulcan won't see us." And he smiles at his little joke, and then says, "So, what did you want to discuss?"
Ben, feel free to stop me if this feels completely out of character for somebody of Gaius's situation. But Gaius will say, I'm going to be entirely honest with you, and perhaps you'll think me mad. Perhaps you'll wave it off as a tall tale. But shortly before you gave us our warning in the early hours of the morning, we encountered 4 very unusual assailants in the city.
Can Clarissa interrupt you? Is that okay?
Of course you can.
Okay, I don't know if that's how interruptions are supposed to work. Just sort of, she very gently and very politely puts her hand on like Gaius' shoulder, and then she looks at the priest and she says, "Have you heard talk of men who are not men and wolves that are not wolves?"
He takes a long, deep breath, and then he says,
I would very much like to judge his reaction depending on what he says, Ben, as well.
All right.
Please do go on.
He takes a very long, deep breath, and then he says, "There are things I know to be true, and there are things I know to be untrue. But there are also things I hear or I feel
that should not be true, but you think they are."
I have heard tell I haven't seen for myself, but I have heard tell of very strange wolves. And I know wolves, they have an important meaning, not perhaps in this place. We're very fond of eagles here. And he gives another little chuckle to himself. Because, you know, as far as he's concerned, he's cracking the place up. But if you wanted to ask about wolves, I might be able to point you in the right direction.
Clarissa's just nodding, waiting for him to carry on, not understanding any of the jokes and not even knowing that they're jokes. She doesn't. Completely over her head.
He's
and like normally she's quite charming, but this time she's got nothing.
He's not particularly brilliant at his delivery, you understand. and then he says, of course, I'm not allowed by my vow to direct you to a different temple.
But, I mean, with that in mind, which temple would you advise us not to go near?
He nods and smiles slightly, and he says, well, I would advise you to stay well away from any temple that you, and he stares you, Gaius, in the eyes, would be unwelcoming.
Such as Mars?
Would Gaius infer anything from that?
He might if he was thinking on the same wavelength. Can you roll a knowledge check with intellect for me, please?
It's gone right over Clarissa's head again.
It's a 7 on the dice.
That's plus 9, so a total of 16. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, there is one temple in the forum that specifically you, Gaius, would not be welcome inside. And it's the other side of the forum, a little bit to the north. It's the Temple of Vesta.
I was going to say Vesta because he's an unmarried man and they're all virgins.
Well, I think that's very kind of you to offer up. Thank you. I will certainly not be making any inquiries there, but I can't speak for my friend.
Clarissa seems to be reaching into her memory for something that she might or might not have read in one of the scrolls while not paying attention to whatever somebody was trying to teach her.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, is there a story that, like, there was a relation, like, Vulcan was married to, like, Venus or someone, and she then sloped off for a night of fleshly passion with Mars, and then Mars and Vulcan became enemies because of it. Did I read that right somewhere?
his face becomes a little less friendly, and he says, "We
We didn't talk about that.
prefer not to think in terms of the lives of our God.
Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean any of.
More the meaning behind those lives."
I don't mean to cause offence, but the reason I'm thinking of it is because we might have accidentally stumbled across a cult of Mars, and it just seems interesting that today we're in the Temple of Vulcan, talking about going to the Temple of Vesta after discovering a Temple of Mars, if you see what I mean. You got the kickles.
He
Classic God love triangle.
Well, I think the point she's trying to make is, Vulcan is the wronged party. The Vestal Virgins, of course, are the upholding of all virtue, all feminine virtue, with reflection against Venus's betrayal, and Mars being the aggressor in the entire situation. So I think she's just trying to discreetly feel out if that dynamic is possibly being played out in sort of real terms between these various cults as well.
He glances as if he can look through the walls to the north, and then he says, "For someone who tends the forge of Vulcan, this entire city is a cult of Mars."
At this point, Clarissa's lost it. She doesn't really understand the answer to that one. I mean, she's had her one clever moment, and she just looks at Gaius now and sort of shrugs a bit helplessly. That is such a great mechanism. You're absolutely right.
It really was.
The wall is
Brilliant.
a door.
The wall is a door.
Gaius will say, "Well, thank you kindly for the sage advice. I'll be sure to I'll make sure that another offering is sent over tomorrow. Perhaps some more oil."
Thank you. We'd appreciate that. That's kind of you. He doesn't seem eager to make you linger longer than necessary.
Sure.
No, but on her way out, Clarissa will sort of very gently reach forward and just, in that way that people do when they're reassuring each other, she just very gently takes his wrist and she says, "Please make sure that you take your own advice and don't be on the streets after dark, please." And then she leaves.
Nods and watches you leave for a couple of seconds before turning back to his work.
Let's go see the Vestal Virgins.
Okay.
Do we really have to, Close? I mean, you could do it. I could either do something else or wait outside.
I don't know why you're so shy, guys, because you are also a virgin and they're virgins, so you can all just be virgins together, right?
I mean, you heard the man. I'm clearly not welcome.
Yeah, but I can't
think we want to get off on the wrong foot, do we?
I've got no reason to go there unless I'm directed to go there by somebody, and I can't just be like, "Hey, I'm a slave rocking up to say hi." We've got to have a reason. Like, what kind of an offering would we take? Or
hello, I've received a vision from your god, that, and I want to know what it means.
Clarissa just
for example.
Fine. I mean, would you wait outside at least while I go in?
Listen, if you want me to, I'll come in with you. But I think we'll be better received if it's not we and it's just yourself, potentially.
I'm sort of discreetly Googling while we walk through town. Oh, interesting. Vesta's all about fire as well. Huh. That's very out of character. Like, that's not Clarissa having that epiphany. Okay. Well, let's go to the Temple of Vesta then.
All right. As you approach it, more or less from the east, the southern edge of it is completely dominated by a large portico, which is completely sealed in. It's round and has columns, very closely spaced, and those columns run from sort of waist height, roughly, right up to the top of the building. Inside, you can actually see some of the priestesses milling about and wandering and sitting by the columns. And there are people approaching and having conversations through the gaps between these columns. The Temple of Vesta has this arrangement whereby men are not allowed in at all. So anyone can come up and talk to them through the gaps in the columns, if you see what I mean. The other end has a main entrance and is theoretically accessible, but it does appear the door is shut, unlike the Temple of Vulcan you've just left.
Sorry.
Gaius will turn to Clarissa as they approach and say, if you wish, I can go with you up until the door and not make introductions, but make introductions. If that will make you feel more comfortable in the situation, it's up to you.
It was just mainly not walking through town by myself, but now that we're here, I think I can go in. Okay. But maybe keeping an eye out and seeing whether or not we were followed could be a good thing to do.
All right.
Sure.
Okay. If you both want to do that, can you both make a notice check for me?
Sure, but before we do, I take it that Vesta is a fairly major cult because she's the goddess of the hearth fire, right? She's all about the home and
Vesta is what you might call one of the big 12, yes.
Okay, so even though Clarissa isn't Roman, she would have more than a passing familiarity with what Vesta's about.
Yes.
Like more than I currently do as a player.
Yes, you would know.
Okay.
Vesta is, in terms of day-to-day life in Rome, as opposed to the sort of grand mythology of great literature and so on, Vesta is representative of the hearth and fire used for cooking and heating. For fire as a domestic property as opposed to, a weapon of war or a forge.
Yeah.
She is, as I say, one of the big 12, the Roman pantheon of 6 male and 6 female gods that are the big names, the big hitters. She is worshipped in a temple like this, but very few people will come to the Temple of Vesta to actually worship her, and there's a specific reason for this. Almost every home in the city, and in fact the entire Roman Empire, will have a shrine to Vesta in the house.
Of course they do, because she's always in the entryway mosaics, isn't it? That's always Vesta on the floor.
Yeah.
Am I right?
So because of that, almost everybody will in fact pay their respects to Vesta at various times of year and for various events, but they'll do so in their own homes. Whereas for some gods, particularly Jupiter stands out, and in Rome, Mars, you see big festivals and public events For Vesta, it's much more individual family kind of events.
Okay.
But Mars is a lot harder to celebrate in your own home, I would imagine.
Well, people do have private shrines to family gods, to ones that are far from the big names. Vesta
Really
is
high insurance premiums.
yeah.
For Mars.
Vesta is the most common of the big 12 to find in a domestic shrine.
Yeah.
Because though a given family might say have one to Diana or one to Apollo or whoever, almost everybody would have one to Vesta as well.
Nice. Okay. In that case, Clarissa will approach the door, and I'm assuming there's some kind of talky window bit that she has to speak through before they'll admit her. And she will say, as humbly as she is able to be, she will say, "Forgive my intrusion, priestess. I am a humble servant from a local ludus, and I come seeking advice on how to please the master of the hearth." She keeps her eyes down and looks very humble.
She, the priestess, who has come to the other side of that door, pulls it open. Are you standing next to her at this point, Gaius, or have you split off a bit?
No, Gaius is. I envision steps on the way up to the door. That may not be true.
There are.
He's away back. He's not on the temple property.
Not
proper.
actually on the precinct. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Then she'll pay no attention to it whatsoever. Open the door and usher you in. And close the door behind you. And as she does so, she says, "Welcome to the focus of the city."
Thank you. Forgive me, I'm not born of Rome, so I'm not entirely sure how to address you. But is there somewhere that we may speak? I know that this is already a private space, but is there somewhere where I can speak to somebody about local danger, I suppose?
I'd like to speak to your manager.
Come on in, Karen.
Talk to your supervisor. There's bad reception. I don't like the parking. The coffee is cold and the water is not sparkling.
I would like to return this here parrot that I purchased not half an hour ago to this very boutique.
This parrot is dead.
It's bleeding demised.
It's no more. We are in a mood tonight, I tell you.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh,
So, she actually doesn't look particularly startled by this. She leads you off to the western side, the hillside side. There are a series of galleries and private rooms down there. They're not, I suppose, technically private. You wouldn't call this a secure environment, but there are quiet spaces where the two of you can sit and talk.
okay. Clarissa's not going to do any regular bullshit. She's going to come clean very, very quickly, and she's going to say, I have entered under somewhat false pretenses. However, I am here on the business of my master in a way, just not the way that I conferred to you. Me and my companion outside last night encountered men who are not men and wolves that are not wolves, and upon a chance encounter with a priest from the Vulcan temple, he suggested that we should come here and maybe speak to you about the goings on after he warned us to not be out on the streets at night in February. And I have to admit, I've seen some things that would strain your belief, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that you can tell me about where I might find out more about these unnatural creatures that stalk the night this month.
She carefully listens to what you say, and then she says, "We are guardians of the hearth, the focus of the city. But it didn't begin as a hearth. The fire we protect is the same fire that burned on the ships coming from Troy. It's the fire that burned as Aeneas camped at Carthage. It's the fire that Romulus and Remus made on the bend in the Tiber. Before it was a hearth, it was the fire that kept the wolves at bay. Before there were walls, before there were weapons, there was the fire. Yes, we know very well what you're talking about."
Huh. She's genuinely shocked. She takes a moment, and sort of quietly wishes to herself that she paid far more attention during those tedious historical lectures that she's been forced to endure than she has actually paid.
They weren't historical lectures, they were current affairs.
Current affairs. Well, you know, the history of Rome, Romulus and Remus, that whole, you know, thing, where the gods came from, comparative religious literature 101. She takes a moment to really think hard on this. And is also trying to commit it to memory because, again, a lot of this feels quite alien to her. This isn't her mythology or her background. And then she chooses her word very, very carefully. And she says, I have a job to do. And it's a job that only I can do. And it is, in part, to do with holding the wolves at bay, like your ancient flame did. Except I do it with pointy things. And last night there were 4 that pursued us. And I am charged with the task of eliminating these dangers in the night. And to be able to do that, I need to find them. And it's been suggested to us that you might know their location. So if you can trust that I'm here to do a job and that you're not just sending an innocent into danger, would you mind telling me what you know about where we could find them?
She nods quite seriously and she says, "I can't tell you where to find them. Partly because we don't go looking for them. But I can help." And she gets up and beckons for you to follow her. And she walks down towards the other end of the building.
Sure. I mean, yeah, Clarissa's all about that. That's fine.
As you get closer towards the other end, you can actually see the doorway that leads out into that colonnaded public area where priestesses are sitting on benches around the edge talking to passers-by. And you're sort of thinking for a moment that that's where you're going, but then it turns out you're not. And just before you get there, she stands before a door on the left of this corridor. Almost all the doors down there, including the one into the little space you were in, were on the right. This one is on the left, which is sort of facing back into the middle of the temple. And she stops there and washes her hands in a little water by the door and nods to you to do the same.
Clarissa does, as respectfully as possible, because I mean, typically we'd expect her to, take the piss a bit, make a splashy sound or whatever, but this time she's played it completely straight, not messing about at all.
Yeah, got any cucumber or lemon? But
nice warm towel would be good.
Yeah. So she
does
then
not see.
Opens the door and steps through. This space is completely dark as she closes the door, or would be completely dark if it were not for the fact that it is lit by a fairly large, cheerful fire in a fire pit in the middle of the floor, a stone recess in the middle of the floor. And the fire contains a lamp on a sort of wooden plinth, which is the actual source of this fire. But it is designed in such a way that you might almost think it was made up of logs resting together into a sort of cone shape.
Oh,
because
interesting.
There are pieces of wood structured around the plinth in order to be reminiscent of a huge campfire. The only actual fire is coming from the lamp in the middle. These logs are not burning, they're not lit.
Yeah.
And she walks around and she says, "Fire is astonishing. It can destroy, and it can also create. Wood burns beautifully in fire, but if you use it well, you can also use wood with fire to make something very hard, very powerful. These logs here have been tempered by keeping them close to flame, rubbing oils into them and then drying them against a fire, repeating that over and over again. Every now and then a few drops of burning oil fall from the lamp onto these logs, but they won't light. These are hard like iron, now, and they make they will never burn."
Huh.
This
is a little bit like magic to Clarissa, from the northern European reaches where fire was, a hole in the ground vented through a hole in the ceiling. This is pretty impressive stuff.
And she walks over and she says, "You are looking for the cult of Mars, but not really Mars as he's known by most citizens of Rome." She looks up at the ceiling and there's this amazing mosaic of Vesta that covers the entire ceiling. And she sort of looks at it for a little bit of strength and she says, "Everyone talks about it as the cult of Mars. The cult of Mars is the cult of Rome. You're after the cult of Quirinus. Romulus, Quirinus, Mars. And anyone you meet may be one of them. I think they have a temple on the Quirinal Hill, but I don't know where. And I do not leave this temple, and nor do any of my sisters. Not at night, anyway. In February we lock the doors and we stay away from the spaces in the portico. We do a few other things, though. We
Hmm.
use our skills to create things that are blessed, to protect us and others. And I don't know if what I'm about to show you will be of any interest or relevance to you. Maybe it won't. If you don't
I
recognise
think
it,
Clarissa's staring at her with pretty wide-eyed wonder by this point. So, she's got a captive and enraptured audience already.
if you don't
So bless her
recognise what I'm
humanity.
about to show you, don't understand it, that's fine. Leave it. I've got this wrong. But if you do understand, then it's yours. And she reaches down into the sort of little gap between the logs around the edges of the fire, right down into the trench around the outside of this monument to ancient campfires,
Ah,
and pulls out another considerably smaller log, sharpened to an absolutely vicious looking point, and holds it out to you. If you know what this is,
uh,
it's yours.
Clarissa tugs. Well, she pulls back a fold of fabric around her waist that conceals the stake that she always carries with her, which is also sharpened to a point, but it's just normal, natural, untempered wood. So it doesn't look as savage, but it's still very clearly the same thing that the priestess is presenting to her. And she says, like one of these.
Like one of those. And she hands it to you.
Badass.
Blessed in the name of Vesta, and made by one of our sisters. Just over 100 years ago.
You've had this for 100 years.
She was, shall we say, a forebear of yours.
Clarissa looks kind of humbled by this. Like genuinely, she's not often genuinely humbled, but to find like that thread of succession in such an unexpected place is quite comforting for a Slayer who tends to spend most of her life and her destiny alone, but also knowing that she's not going to live longer than a handful of years before the next one comes along. That's just the nature of the job. So she's quite touched by this, and she asks, did my sister name this when she made it?
Name it? No.
Okay. Thank you. I don't know how I can... I don't know. I'm not generally in the business of saying thank you, but I feel like I need to do something to honor you besides just killing bad things with this. Is there a sacrifice that I can make, or a pledge, or a devotional that I can do to Vesta?
There's a sacrifice.
I can give you my friend. We can kill Gaius. I'm kidding. What's the sacrifice?
I think you'll know it when you see it. But I'd appreciate it when you've done it, if you could come and tell us.
Oh, that I can do. Of course, priestess. Thank you. Yeah, she's quite humbled by this whole experience. She's a little bit, yeah. Well, so she doesn't get to talk to a lot of women because they tend to be slaves. So yeah, she's enjoying this whole sorority thing.
Yeah.
But also, I really wanted to call it Mr. Pointy too.
Well, it's classic.
It is a classic. Yeah. Yes.
Legendary weapon get. Nice. She and then she says, like, just one more question, because we have found a secret temple of Mars, but also the Romulus Mars Quirinus dude, not just Mars, with a cult actively in the midst of worship. There were slaves that we freed that were kept in awful conditions underneath the temple. We just don't know where the source of it is, and I think you might have just given us the key. Thank you.
Of course. Here to help.
Me and Mr. Pointy, you know. Can she take it with
Yes, absolutely.
with a certain amount? She just accepts the
and
amazing.
and the priestess will walk you all the way back to the front door with a sort of soft smile on her face. She thinks she's done good work today.
Yeah, and at the door, I mean, Clarissa's going to do that classic thing where she just, like, she's so grateful, she doesn't know how to behave, so she just hugs her on the way out. It's just like a really friendly, thanks so much.
Okay.
And then, because I also feel like this priestess doesn't have much of a sense of humour. Being tall up a bit of a cold fish. So,
Right.
yeah.
You
But
have in
she's
your
also
possession
very careful
a magical stake.
Yeah.
It does 3 times rather than 2 times your strength as main damage as a weapon. It cannot be blunted, it cannot be shattered, and it cannot be burned even by magical fire.
It's the pointy indeed.
Magical fire was going to be my first port of call.
Cannot blunt, cannot burn.
I mean, it is, without being silly about it, the Rolls Royce of short pieces of pointed wood.
Heck yeah! It's made a magic word.
Yeah.
It's been blessed by virgins, which is kind of ironic when you think about it. I mean, they're virgins and they've given you something that's really good at penetration.
It's a very phallic thing for virgins to bless, yes.
There's that to think about. Cool. She cheerfully, well, she makes sure that she hides the stake underneath, another fold of clothing, and she resumes her eyes down, hands in front of her position. But there is a kind of skip to her step as she descends the steps.
There's a bit of a Slayer strut going on, yeah.
Yeah, she's looking cool in her, what is it, fashionable yet affordable shoes, sandals, whatever. Oh, it's all happening. All the Buffy's coming out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So she finds Gaius
outside,
again.
you can reunite with Gaius.
Yeah.
How did it go?
Let me tell you, that place, amazing. I know where they are. I think I know where they are. And they gave me a present, and I can't wait for tonight because we should go hunting. Let's go hunting tonight. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anywhere else you want to go while it's not night? Because you've got basically the whole day ahead of you. So if you'd like to visit any locations when there aren't going to be vampires there.
Yeah, well, she does. I mean, she does say that the cult of Quirinus is where the priestess said we're most likely to find. And also, it's not just the ordinary cult of Mars. It's like this older, like the guy in the Vulcan temple was saying, it's Romulus Mars Quirinus. So we need the temple of Quirinus, apparently. And yeah, we should go look around there now just to get the layout of it, so that later on we can get stabby. She only gave me one magic stabby thing, though. I'm sorry.
I think no. I mean, that's fine. I think it's the magical stabby thing. Sounds like it's right up your alley.
Here's the thing, though. She said it was made by another Slayer over 100 years ago. And, like, in Slayer Lives, that's like 8 Slayers ago. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, sort of like a family heirloom, I guess, for you.
I've heard of other Slayers, of course I have, but I've never walked the same streets and held something that belonged to another one before. And it's amazing. I can't wait to show it to you. Let's find a way that I can. Yeah.
Mm. It seems fitting that you received such an item at Temple. You know, they're quite well renowned for things that have been long held by people of a certain persuasion.
They're not lesbians. That's something different.
Anyway, worth noting, because I know, you tend to speak your mind. Perhaps when we're searching for the Temple of Quirinus, it's best to not mention that we're searching for the Temple of Quirinus.
No.
I'd imagine it's kind of. I'm getting the vibe that it's sort of a. I'm getting the feeling that it's sort of a known secret amongst its members.
She did say that it's an active cult and that anybody could be a member, and so I take that to mean that they don't wear insignia or identify themselves in any way. They just sort of turn up, which we could use to our advantage if we also just wanted to turn up.
Yes, but then also they probably don't mention their name out loud when wandering around the streets. Just
Right.
as a heads up.
I'm just telling you what she said, that's all.
Okay.
She's in too good of a mood to be snippy and smart-ass at the moment.
You say that.
Say that. Okay. So, where do you want to go?
Home? Should we head home? We've got
Right,
nothing
let's
else to do,
look
have we?
How far are we to between? Like, how much distance is there between us and Quirinal Hill?
It would be about.
Oh, good night, Croy.
Good night, Croy. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good night.
I mean, you could probably walk there in 45 minutes, an hour.
So we just go and have a quick look then.
Yeah, of course we should. I'm just being silly because I know you've got a new toy and you're eager, and we've got a really good lead. I think that's the best place to go. I mean, we're not going to go home. It's early still.
Also, I'm starving. I've been up all night and we haven't had breakfast or dinner or 4 a.m. snacksies. So can we get something to eat on the way?
I'm just saying you should talk to all these other servants around and find out how many meals they have a day. But yes, we can.
I mean, how many of them kill all the things and jump around and run after stuff like I have? Listen, I have a high calorie intake requirement.
We'll get some food.
Okay. So, as the sun continues to rise in the sky in the morning, you march off towards the northeast, towards the Quirinal Hill. And as you set off in that direction, we will call it for tonight. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That felt like a good episode.
We got
a weapons upgrade. We found out some important information. You killed some first vampires.
First
I think
vampires.
guys had a cinematic moment. You were properly in peril, then victory from the jaws of pigs.
I think the rules do
Thanks,
encourage descriptive cinematic play, to be honest.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I like the initiative and the...
Oh, thanks, Bez.
Yeah, kind of describing what you want to happen and then it happening with a little bit more. It's good.
Also, our rolls were absurdly good.
Yeah, they were.
Never roll like that.
That
ever.
can't last, I hope. I really
I'm sure it
will.
will.
I always find when we're playing blues, it's more fun when the rolls go badly because you got to think on your feet to figure out how to not die. But no, it was... I gotta say, it's also kind of cool to be rolling 8s, 9s, and 10s all the time. Yeah.
Luke and I often talk about how bad rolls tend to land you in more interesting situations, and it tends to be more fun story-wise. But I think with Buffy, good rolls tend to lead to those really cool moments that you kind of want
Yeah.
from such a story, I guess. It's all
Yeah, that was a lot.
subjective, but you know.
And I just love this whole. The more we play, the more I fall in love with Gaius, and actually Clarissa, and you know, because I think I naturally play somebody who's quite cocky and mouthy, and she's got to constantly remember her place in society.
It's an interesting
that's quite
situation.
entertaining. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I wonder if she's going to get in trouble for that at some point. Probably, knowing Ben.
It's possible.
I was going to say, knowing
depends
you.
on it depends on the right moment for the right thing. I mean, it turns out in practical terms, as you now know, the priestess you just spent a little bit of time talking to wasn't under any illusions that you were actually just a slave. But there are going to be people who are going to be under those illusions.
Yeah, and when I approached that conversation, I thought, you know, either we could take 4 hours to get to the bottom of a relatively simple scenario, or she could just come clean, because this is a holy woman who has devoted her actual entire life to, you know, this. And so, you know, ultimately, even if she's like, what the hell is a slayer? Who is she going to tell, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I thought, let's at least take that risk.
And
But I was thrilled that it's like like Ewan said, an heirloom. It was really lovely.
well, I was sort of hoping you'd come there and see it.
Yeah.
It was very good.
Bless that lovely man at the Vulcan temple. That was a good gate. I enjoyed that one. He was cool.
Good. Right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us either live or on VOD. We're always profoundly grateful and humbled that you come along and spend time with us. Thank you very much. Thank you to Ewan. Thank you to Socks. It's been enormous fun and I've had a thoroughly good time. I hope you guys have too.
And thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
So tomorrow night we are returning to deep, dark outer space where misery loves the company, as it turns out, as we do some those dark places.
And it also turns out everyone can hear a scream because it's on the internet.
Yes. So we'll be joined for that by the delightful Gilly, who is an absolute favourite, of course. So please come back and join us if you want that. It's another tabletop RPG. Completely different era, completely different style, completely different genre, and a completely different referee because Luke running that one.
Ben's running us through that.
And I get to roll dice and win things.
It's Ben's night off, and so he must drink tomorrow. That's how that works.
Sure. Yep.
But yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, guys. And good night from us.
Bye.
Good night.